Oh, Midland, once the king of the personal radio communications empire, it has been painful to watch you fall, and I'm going to share that pain with you, my favorite viewer. So prepare yourself, because like with many of my videos, this will be uncomfortable. So just lean back, breathe through your mouth, and let this happen. Today, due to popular demand, I'm going to be reviewing the Midland MXT115 GMRS radio, 15-watt mobile GMRS radio. I've gotten more people asking me to review this radio than any radio ever. So I'm going to do it. The MXT115 is an FCC Part 95E compliant mobile GMRS radio. You do need a GMRS license if you're going to talk on it. If you don't already have your GMRS license, it's very easy to get. There's a link right here to my website with step-by-step instructions, including pictures of how to buy your GMRS license. There is no test other than maneuvering around the FCC website, fork over a few dollars, and the FCC will then grant you the privilege of using our free airwaves. The price for the Midland is $150. It is available now on Amazon. It's been available for a long time. Affiliate links below, but do not buy this radio until you've watched this entire video, because it may not be for you. It may not fit your dynamic and exciting lifestyle. On the other hand, it might. I'll talk about who may or may not want this radio, because there are issues. It has some issues. We're going to talk about those issues. Full disclosure, Midland did not send me this radio. No, because they know that I'm going to rip this thing a new asshole. It would be stupid for them to have sent me this radio. I paid for this radio with my own money. For you channel members that contribute to the channel and those that have sent me Bitcoin, by the way, my Bitcoin address is right there. That is my Bitcoin address. Feel free to support the channel. For those supporting members and people that have sent me Bitcoin, this is what I do with all that money that you send me. I spend it on junk and show you how junky the junk is so you don't have to. The Midland GMRS radio has been around for a long time. As I mentioned, Midland used to be a good brand, not one of those cheap Chinese brands. Boy, has that changed. So on the box, we have some of the features. We'll go over some of these features. 15-watt radio. We're going to test that. 15 GMRS channels. Wikipedia says GMRS has 22 channels. This radio only has 15, channels 1 through 7, and channels 15 through 22. Every radio, every one of those cheap Chinese radios I've ever tested or used or looked at has full 22 channels. Now, some of those radios, the higher powered mobile ones, can't transmit on channels 8 through 14, but they can all listen. So the reason for that is those are the old FRS channels or something. You can only transmit at very low power. Most mobile radios can't go that low in power, so they just don't transmit at all. Midland has decided to just remove those channels completely. Strike one. 10 weather channels, those are the regular NOAA channels. Oh, privacy codes. We can talk in private with 142 privacy codes, right? No. Strike two. Midland continues to call these privacy codes when they're not private at all. If you want to learn more about what a privacy code is and isn't, watch that video that I just did about privacy codes and why they are not private in any way. Special features, 8 GMRS repeater channels. We're going to talk about that. That is also an issue with this radio. Programmable squelch, channel scan, weather scan, a manual squelch, mono. Okay, so none of this stuff matters to most people. 12-volt power cord with car adapter. That is actually a nice feature if you don't want to do a permanent installation. And then blah, 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 everything that's in the package, we will go over that. So what you will receive in the box when you spend your $150, you will get this tiny user manual with a quick start guide hidden in it. You will receive a microphone mount with a sticky sticker on the back to stick it anywhere. A couple of screws for mounting, I guess that's for the microphone mount. The power cord that goes into the back of the radio with a lighter attachment. It's a handy feature if you don't want to permanently install the radio in your car. This radio comes with an antenna. It is a dinky little antenna. 7 inches when measured from the base. Always measure from the base. With a 19-foot cord and a standard PL259 connector. You will receive, that's a magnetic base. So that sticks to any metal surface like your hood of your car. So you just stick that on and you're good to go. It comes with this little metal sticky, which is a peel-off sticker that's metal that will attach to that in case you don't have something metal to attach it to. You can stick that on and attach it. But the radio requires a metal surface to act as a ground plane. So for example, if you have a Jeep and you stick this metal sticky on top of the fiberglass roof and stick it on, the antenna is not going to work very well because it needs a metal surface to bounce those signals off into space. You will receive a microphone with the RJ45 type jack that plugs in. We're going to talk a lot more about this microphone. We're going to talk about a lot of this stuff because Midland. And you will receive the radio, the MXT115 15-watt radio. It has a mounting bracket. I didn't even take it off, which comes on and off. That's this part here. And the power plug, which goes into the other side of this thing. It is a small radio. A lot of people like that. 4.5, well, let's say right at 5 inches at its widest. 4.5 at the length. The case is metal. It acts as a heat sink, and it does get very warm very quickly when you're not even transmitting. I don't know if that's an issue, but my other cheap Chinese radios don't do that. On the front, you've got the jack for the microphone. You have a USB charging plug that you can plug your phone or whatever into to charge up off of. I suppose that's nice. You have this tiny screen, just under 2 inches. You can customize the screen. It's got a few different colors, a couple of control buttons, on and off power. On the rear, again, the power plug. SO239 antenna connector, that's what the antenna plugs into. And it's got an external speaker plug. I almost forgot that in the box you will also receive a Midland sticker for all the chumps that like to put stickers all over their vehicles and advertise for other companies. First very important feature that this radio does have is a Roger beep option. If you want to learn more about the Roger beep and why it is the most important setting of your radio, watch that video right there. Now, the first issue that I ran into is that the Midland, I could not get to operate with either of my DC power supplies. I've got 2 power supplies, one that has a female socket for the cigarette lighter adapters, would not work. And then I've got a high amperage, high wattage DC power converter that I use on every radio I've ever gotten. Does not work. I thought the radio was dead, but when I plugged it into the lighter on one of the Jeeps, it worked fine. I don't know why that is. Maybe you electrical engineers can tell us why. Because I can't get it to work here on my tech mat, I'm going to have to refer to some B-roll footage that I shot in the Jeep as I'm talking. So let's start with the antenna. I mentioned it comes with, so this is one of the good things about this radio. It comes with everything that you need to turn it on and start using it. The cigarette lighter plug so that you don't have to cut wires and mount it and drill holes and all that. Plug it right in the cigarette lighter. And then it's got the antenna, 19-foot cord. It plugs right into the back of the radio. Now, I did not expect much out of this antenna. This cable, it's not even cable. It's like a 14 gauge or 16 gauge wire. I'm surprised that any signal actually even makes it out of the antenna, but it does. It works decently. When I measured the SWR on this antenna, I expected it to be through the roof. I was surprised. It was 1.51 to 1 just by sticking it on the fender, metal fender of the wife's Jeep. So the antenna is not bad. It does work surprisingly well. Another important test was the power output. I used my handy dandy favorite little SWR and power meter to check the power output. On high power, it was outputting 13 watts, and on low power, 4 watts. So power output is pretty much right in there where it should be. It's supposed to be 5 and 15. 4 and 13 isn't bad. Now the range, another important factor. How far can you talk on this radio? With the little baby antenna sitting on the fender of my wife's Jeep in the garage with the door closed, I was able to talk to a friend of mine 3 miles away, and he was able to hear me fairly clearly 3 miles away through the garage. He sent a little video of what that sounded like.
Now transmitting on the Midland MXT115. How does the audio sound? How does the volume sound?
So at 3 miles away, it's fairly clear, fairly decently strong signal. I have another friend that was listening at the same time, 10 miles away. He was able to hear me. He said it was very low and very staticky, but he heard me 10 miles away. I couldn't receive him. He was only transmitting on a 4 or 5 watt handheld. I was transmitting at the full 15 watts. So far, a good all-in-one radio, decent range, decent little antenna, not so bad. So now let's talk about how Midland has forgotten how to make good radios. First of all, this radio, now I couldn't find any specs about, is it wideband or narrowband? I looked, I can't find any specifications. I'm sure they're out there somewhere. Somebody will find them and link below to confirm, but this radio appears to be narrowband only. And I think it's odd that nowhere do they put in any of the sales information in the manual and the specs on Amazon or on their website, they don't say whether or not it is wideband or narrowband. So what that means is most GMRS radios are wideband. I'm not going to do a whole video on wideband. I should do a video on wideband versus narrowband because it causes much confusion. But basically, what this means is most radios, GMRS radios, are wideband. We're all talking, we're receiving wideband. The bandwidth that we're talking in is this wide, this high, okay? Lowest volume, highest volume. Wideband. Narrowband means that volume level is half of wideband. You can still talk to other radios, the other radios hear you, but if you're talking on a narrowband radio to a wideband radio, because the volume of the narrowband radio is less, you're only going to hear 50% volume. No matter how loud you scream and talk, if someone is listening to you on a wideband radio, your volume is going to sound low. If you talk to another narrowband radio, it's going to sound fine because they're both narrowband. Basically, what it boils down to is most radios are wideband. All those cheap Chinese junk radios are wideband. When you're talking on the Midland, which is narrowband, to a wideband radio, everybody's going to be saying, "What did you say? I can't hear you." They'll hear you, but it's going to be low, and they're going to be struggling, and they're going to get pissed off listening to you. Not a huge deal. If you're talking to another Midland radio or another narrowband radio, you wouldn't notice. It's only when you talk to any of the other radios in the world that are wideband that you'll have that low volume issue. Narrowband sucks. Now you notice that the screen was relatively small. It was only like 2 inches by ½ an inch tall, and it seems to be made out of that 1980s LCD watch technology, with the little squares, and there's only a few of them. So reading it, even though it's bright and it's clear and you can see it from far away, the characters are so low resolution, it's like trying to read Chinese written by an ancient Egyptian. It's hard to read. It's probably the worst screen that I've seen, at least the worst screen I can remember ever seeing. All the other cheap Chinese radios have high resolution screens so you can actually see and make sense of what's going on. As I mentioned, only 15 channels. Why? Midland, why? All those other radios, they can't transmit on all of the channels, but Midland has decided to just eliminate them. Why, Midland? Why? 8 repeater channels. Okay, real GMRS radios let you talk on repeaters. Before you can use repeater channels, you have to go into the menus and turn on the repeater option. Only radio I've ever run into, none of these cheap Chinese radios, you have to do that. You just turn them on and start talking on repeater channels. Not a big deal. Once you enable the repeater option, those repeater channels are there. I suppose that if you never plan on using repeater channels, it helps to keep things simple just by leaving them off. So for some people, this might actually be a good thing. But to go in and have to turn that feature on is a pain in the bitch. Why, Midland? Why? Repeater tone, CTCSS, DCS, privacy tones, as Midland likes to call them. Privacy tones are not private in any way, but you need those tones to connect to a repeater. And this shitty screen only displays 2 characters at a time, 2 characters for the tones. Now, most tones, the majority of tones are 3 and 4 characters long. For example, the most common tone, CTCSS tone 141.3 is 141.3. You need 5 characters. This only shows 2 characters. So as you're going through the knobs to get your tones, you have to go to their lookup table so that you know that 03 refers to CTCSS tone 141.3. So they provide that in their manual. Now, I don't know if you can read that. I needed a fucking magnifying glass to see that. I'm sure it's available online. You could print it out. Try looking those up when you're out traveling and you need to connect to a repeater. Good luck with that. The other issue regarding tones and repeaters is that this radio will not do split tones. Now, I don't want to get into a whole discussion about what split tones are. It means 2 different tones, one to receive, one to transmit. Many repeaters don't use split tones, so it's not a big deal. My repeater that I run, I built my own repeater. If you want to see how I did that, watch that video. My repeater has a transmit tone and a receive tone. I can't use this radio on my own repeater. But all my cheap Chinese radios, cheap junk Chinese radios, they all support split tones. The other issue is that it does not support different tones for different channels. So if your repeater channel 1 uses tone XYZ, you put that tone in, now that tone is on all the channels, as far as I could find. Now, maybe there's something in the book that I was doing it wrong. It's possible. Using this radio for any serious repeater usage is it's impractical. Why? Why, Midland? Why? Now let's talk about the microphone. Talk here, push the button here to transmit, and it's got these up and down buttons for changing the channel up and down or scrolling through menu options. You must use the microphone to change any settings to program the radio at all. Another big problem that I ran into is that when you're holding the microphone and you're pushing the up or down button to program to go through the list. So let's say you're going to add a DCS tone. Now, there's hundreds of tones. You can only scroll through them 1 click at a time. If you try to do it quicker, it still only goes very slow. You can press and hold it, and that goes almost slower. So to enter DCS tone 273 took 5 minutes just to scroll from 0 up to whatever the number was for that tone. When you're holding the microphone, clicking up, if you accidentally press the push to talk button with your thumb or any part of your hand, it then cancels out whatever you're doing and you have to start over. Every time I tried to change something, I had to do it multiple times because my big hands, sausage hands, kept pushing there. So really, to program it without accidentally touching that button, you have to use 2 hands and very gingerly and carefully do it that way. It's very difficult to do it with 1 hand. Now, one thing that I did notice with this mic is that it feels very sturdy. This is probably the best feeling mic that I've ever used. It feels nice. So I got to wondering, why does it feel so nice? All the cheap Chinese radios feel like air. So I investigated. I got out my screwdriver and opened it up to see what was in there that was making it so substantial feeling. When we open it up, what we find, let's see what we find. Okay, so we've got our little circuit board here. That's really all that's needed, some wires. But look here. It's got weights in the microphone. This is a magnetic screwdriver. Oh, it sort of sticks. Maybe it's steel. I can barely feel it. So it's not lead. That's what makes it feel so solid. They stuck some steel plates in there. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm conflicted. Are they cheating us? Are they lying to us? Are they trying to make us think that it's a much more substantial and better microphone than it is by sticking steel plates in there? Is there some functionality that I'm not aware of that putting steel plates in there gives the microphone a better sound? Or I don't think so, but I don't know. I'm not a microphonologist. Someone will leave a comment and let us know. I find it very odd that Midland has decided to put steel plates in the microphone to apparently make it feel heavier. It does feel nice, but I can't help feeling that I've been lied to or tricked in some way. It makes me feel dirty inside. So I'm curious what you think about the steel plate-filled microphone. Leave a comment below if you know why Midland has decided to put steel plates inside their microphone. Let us know why. Or let us know, would you feel cheated? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I have no opinion. I feel dirty inside. So who is this radio for? If you are a serious GMRS user, if you're what we refer to as a GMRS dork, like me, it's not a bad thing. You should be proud. Then this radio is not for you. If I were to buy this radio, being the GMRS dork that I am, I would send it back immediately. So if you're looking for a real GMRS radio, do not buy this radio. It might be a great choice for somebody that just needs a radio that they can quickly use, throw the antenna up on the roof, talk to whoever they need to talk to for buying or driving across country or whatever. And then when they're done, they can just wad it all back up and throw it back in the trunk and not worry about it. If that's the kind of radio you're looking for, this is a great choice. Is it worth $150? So you can get a Radioddity DB20G, which is very similar in size, has the same cigarette lighter and everything. That's only $120 or $30. It's a few dollars less, but that does not come with the antenna or the cable. It is more of a real GMRS radio that you can easily connect to multiple repeaters and do all the real GMRS radio things. But if what you're wanting is that simplicity, take it out of the trunk, plug it in, stick the antenna up on top, use it. When you're done, wad it up, throw it back under the seat or in the trunk, then that extra $20 or $30 might be worth it to you. So overall, not a terrible choice as long as you know what you're getting and as long as you have decided that it is the right radio for you and your personal lifestyle. If you have any questions or comments, maybe I did something wrong, maybe I missed something in the tiny instruction manual, you couldn't blame me, I am only human. Leave a comment below, let me know if I missed anything. If you have questions, leave those as well. I'll do my best to answer. If I'm not able to answer, someone will come along and they will try to answer and they will probably get it wrong. So bear that in mind. Thank you for watching. And remember, if you're looking for the best